we have a three-way fight for the title, or more like two-way, but there is an outsider who's in with a shot as well if everything kicks off tonight and we get some crazy results. But tonight we're going to find out who will win the championship between Daniel P. Wheelnut, Seena and Jacko, who is still just about in with a chance. It will be decided tonight. It's been a fantastic season. There's been some fantastic races, and I'm sure we're going to have two classics here tonight in Spa and then in Silverstone a bit later in what will of course be the final couple of races on this game in any TGP series. And of course next season will be in the new cars as well, so it's a little bit like the end of an era for TGP tonight. And let's see who will finish it by coming out on top. We've got just over 3 minutes to go in this quali session, and the three drivers still in with a chance of the title are 5th, 6th and 7th. Wheelnut, Jacko, Seena. But it's Wheelnut who has a 10-point gap over Seena coming into tonight, with Jacko 45 points back. So he's probably going to need, Seena and Wheelnut to basically not score many points at all. But it looks like it's going to be between Wheelnut and Seena. Joining me tonight in the commentary box, as usual, is Roy. Hello, Roy. You looking forward to this championship decider?
Evening, Daniel. Yeah, I really am. No idea who's going to win it. I mean, probably not Jacko. It would require a disaster for both of Daniel and Seena. But obviously, if something does happen that way, then we know we were in for an eventful night. But I think it is realistically going to be between Daniel and Seena. And I can't really call it. I think they've both put in campaigns that would be worthy of the title. They've taken several race wins each. Of course, Daniel with more wins than Seena this season. But I'm very intrigued to see how this title fight goes. And Seena then through the final chicane, he was a bit wide through the last corner, and he only elevates himself up to P6. Ooh. With that effort, and he's a good bit off pole position, good bit off the front row in fact, and he's a good bit off the direction of turn 1. But anyway, Jacko then crosses the line with an invalid lap, so he'll have to go again if he can. Wheelnut is on another lap. I thought he was on an out lap at the same time as Seena, but maybe I was I was wrong on that one. So let's see then, Daniel P. Wheelnut, with what is likely to be his final attempt in this session. Let's see what he can do.
Well, he's got a bit of a gap to go to get up to these top 4. It's very close between 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th. Less than a 10th separating the top 4, but then you have to go 3 tenths back to get to Wheelnut. So we could have a situation here where Wheelnut and Seena, top 2 fighting for the championship, are basically way off the top 4 in terms of quickest around this track. Just watching Mike Newman also on a lap now. We're going to get these final laps through, but Wheelnut will be the first across the line, I think. So we'll see how much he can lower the benchmark, and if he can get himself, he's 2 tenths down. He's 2 tenths down in the second sector, so it's going to have to be a worldy final sector to get anywhere near that top 4. And at the minute, it's looking like possibly a 3rd row start for Wheelnut and Seena. We have still got Jacko to come through as well. Maybe Jacko can get ahead of them both as well. So, we know Seena's famously good at starts, of course, so that may help him. But let's see if Wheelnut is going to improve. Is he going to have a decent final sector? It looks quite good. He crosses the line, and he actually did improve slightly to a 44.2, but it's not enough to improve his position. Jacko, meanwhile, is 7 tenths up right now, and he will be the next across the line.
So Jacko then in his Ferrari. Let's see how he negotiates this final chicane. Let's see if he can do it a good bit better than Seena did, and it looks like he can. Seena was very wide through the final part of that chicane, and Jacko then crossed the line. Pole position.
Wow.
For Jacko, unless Mike Noon can deny him, but he can't.
He's invalidated.
He's invalid. Now let's see where Dom is. Dom is on the track without a front wing, so he won't be taking pole. I think John Menzies is at the Brussels hairpin. Wheelnut is not on another lap. I'm just trying to find out who the driver furthest around the lap is. I believe it's actually Mick Schumacher, who's on an invalid lap, so he's not in the session. I think Sayers. Chris Johnson.
John Menzies has spun it. He's spun it at P1, so that's it for John as well. So they're just fallen by the wayside. They had all the main competitors, but there's still Mike Noon, who crossed the line with a few seconds to go. He may be able to take the lap away here, take the pole lap away. Blair Grills as well, perhaps, potentially. But Chris Johnson also coming towards the end of his lap, as you mentioned, and he's half a second up right now. Can this be enough maybe to get ahead of Seena and Wheelnut. Can he possibly split the pair of them? That would be interesting. Let's see what happens. He slams on the brakes with a bus stop chicane. And let's see if he can get a decent entry through that chicane. Yeah, that looked quite nice. Run to the line now, open the DRS, give it everything. And Chris Johnson, he only improves to 8 just off Seena's time.
Yep, just off his time. And let's see, is Blair Grills on a lap?
Mike Noon's crashed. He's crashed at the Fania chicane. So it's all over for him.
I think Blair Grills may still be on a lap here. So let's see what the McLaren driver can do. He's very, very close to the front row. So let's see what the McLaren driver can do. Currently sitting in P5. DRS open for the final few meters of this track, and he crosses the line. It's P2 for Blair Grills, which I was going to say puts more cars between himself and Wheelnut and Seena, but actually doesn't. I think that is it for qualifying. Jacko taking pole by a quarter of a second ahead of Blair Grills. With the title contenders, the other 2 title contenders, because of course Jacko still has a mathematical chance of winning this title, are P6 and P7.
Yeah, so Jacko does need a miracle tonight, but I suppose it's not a bad way of starting, and so that takes him to 6 poles in the season, and like I say, he is 45 points back from Wheelnut, so he obviously needs to win both races and hope that the others are nowhere, but I think he'll take that result certainly in this qualifying session, but I think Wheelnut will at least be happy to be ahead of Seena. Remember, Wheelnut is 10 points ahead of Seena. Wheelnut could, of course, win the championship in this race if he outscores Seena by 10 points. I imagine it will be. There's a 10-point gap right now, but I think Seena will try and make sure that will not happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I suppose Daniel, I suppose both of them are probably breathing a sigh of relief that, neither of them are really on the front runner's pace, which is probably good for both of their title aspirations. For Seena, Daniel's in the pack, and then for Daniel, he's ahead of Seena still. So even if Seena does outscore him, if things stay roughly the same, it won't be very good for Seena's chances. But then again, you never know what's going to happen, and it's quite rare that we actually see the grid order at the end of the race. So expect something spicy to happen, I would say, especially around Belgium. It's a surprising has a surprisingly high attrition rate, mainly due to the curbs on this game, I have to say. But I think we saw a lot of drivers sort of afraid to use the curbs. I saw a lot of drivers missing apexes by quite some distance, and I don't blame them, to be honest, because I was quite similar. Better safe than sorry, but maybe Seena and Wheelnut are a bit too cautious going by that qualifying session, but let's see how it all pans out.
So it's 15 points, isn't it? If Wheelnut outscores Seena by 15 points, he will take the championship here. Of course, that's not including any possible fastest laps, but you can see it's a bit cloudy up ahead, but we think it's going to stay dry.
As we get ready to go then around this legendary circuit, we have 5 lights on, and we're away in Belgium, and it looks like a fairly even start up at the front. In fact, Mike Noon, I think, has got a better start than Blair Grills. And Mike Noon then, I thought he was going to go for a move. Actually, he is going for a move. Mike Noon then straight up into the lead. I think Seena's had some contact behind. I think Seena's now, he's gone up to 5th, but I don't know, did he spin the car ahead of him? But anyway, Wheelnut and Seena side by side heading up through Radion. Seena has the inside line. Wheelnut tries to fight it. They're still side by side heading down the Kemmel Straight. But Daniel now tucks right in behind Seena. They both made up places at the start, but it's Seena who's making up more ground than his main title rival. Will Daniel decide to throw it down the inside of Les Combes? Seena goes very, very deep. He misses the corner, and Daniel then will go around the outside. Seena not making too much of an effort to keep him behind, and that's fair stuff there. So Daniel up to P4.
Oh God, Wheelnut's gone deep.
So Seena. Seena's gone deep as well. Now Chris Johnson has split the pair of them, or has he? Because Seena has that inside line, and Chris Johnson, I don't think he really wants to get involved in this title fight. So Chris Johnson will stay behind and is stuck in P6. As Sayer Sports nearly runs into the back of his teammate. In fact, I think that's actually his lag. So we'll try to cross over that. But good starts for Wheelnut and Seena, but crucially, Wheelnut is still ahead.
Highly eventful start, and well, fair play to Wheelnut and Seena for not colliding there when he was side by side. The 2 main championship contenders going up for Rouge, incredible. And they both managed to get away with it. But yet Seena did tap Blair Girls into the first corner, and it's sent Blair Girls down to 12th place. Possible steward's report maybe after the race, you might wonder. But for now, it's Wheelnut in 14 or 5th, and Jacko just managed to hold on to the lead as well from Mike Noon.
So, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. We've barely talked about the drivers at the front. It's kind of as we were. We have a virtual safety car for no reason. So
I imagine it might be a crash towards the back, maybe. I think Angel versus Death's got no front wing. I think he crashed at Eau Rouge, didn't he? I don't know how he didn't DNF, actually. But we've got a few drivers coming into the pit lane. That's a good point. Maybe somebody might have lost it as well coming through to the start of the final sector. Might be a bit of debris on the circuit. So we've got a few drivers coming into the pit lane then at this stage. I imagine predominantly for damage. Yeah, a lot of front wings being replaced. And I say Virgo's going to hard tyres. I don't know if that was deliberate or not, but probably not what the best decision there. But yeah, pretty much everybody who's pitting seems to be replacing the front wings. I don't think there's any sort of strategy stops right now. Mainly all to change front wings, and they've all put medium tyres on, aside from Blair Grills, of course, on the hards.
I think they've got their full stop in, or maybe the ones at the end didn't. I don't think Angel versus Death quite got his full stop in, so I didn't quite get the advantage of the others. But we are racing again here at Spa, and it's pretty close to the front between Jacko and Mike Noon. Less than a second separating them, and at the end of this lap, DRS will be enabled down that Kemmel straight. They won't get on the pit straight because the section point is still on lap number 2. But Jacko then, he's going to have to keep Mike Noon behind him, but if anything, Mike Noon's closing in. I think he was spin behind for
Neljak spun, yes he has, Vanya chicane there, but there's a big gap of course between the guys who pitted catch up, so he'll drop down to 10th. But look at Chris Johnson here, closing in on Seena. This is the closest two cars on the track right now. Will Chris Johnson fancy a go? I mean, he knows what it's like to be involved in championship battles on the final night of the season. Does he want to get involved with this one? But he takes a step back and doesn't go for a move just yet, as DRS, as you say, is now enabled, and we'll see if there can be any moves completed on the run down till they come on this lap.
I think the first drivers to watch will obviously be the leading pair of Jacko and Mike Noon, and I'll tell you what, actually they've both not really used any deployment, but then again we did just have a virtual safety car, so let's see then. It's Mike Noon. Well, he avoided a crash there, and I don't think he's really going to be able to make a move now because he's lost momentum, and also he did kind of have to cut the corner to avoid that. So let's see behind then, is anyone shaping up for a move? No, they're not. Everyone's actually quite spread apart. So no moves on this lap, but they should start coming in over the next few laps of the circuit.
Of course, if it stays like this, it will be a 12-point gap going into the final race of the season. It will not ahead by 12 points, and Jacko will have closed in a little bit, but I'm pretty sure it will not be enough for him to fight for the title once we get to Silverstone. But Seena really needs to be ahead of Wheelnut, doesn't he? But he's fallen back from Wheelnut. Wheelnut's gaining on Johnny here, and Chris Johnson's still putting Seena under some big pressure. And Sayers Sports is also just right behind as well. Seena does not seem to have the pace around Spa, as Wheelnut's gone for third place now because John Menzies has spun.
That's great news for Wheelnut. The distance in terms of points between third and fourth is 3 points compared to 2 between fourth and fifth. So it would extend his lead to 13. I wonder if Seena has damage from that turn 1 incident, because he just does not seem to have the pace. And
that's a good point.
It may be only very minor wing damage. We'll have to see when he comes into pit what's going to happen. We've a yellow flag in sector 3, and I believe that John Menzies gone for yet another spin, as Sayers Sports is now fighting with his Aston Martin teammate. And I think that's good news for Seena, who actually goes very, very wide at the final chicane. I think he may indeed have damage on that AlphaTauri, and even the minor damage on this game does give you quite the amount of understeer. So now Chris Johnson with a big run now down the Kemmel straight. Seena was going to run deep. I mean, I think he's past the detection point there, so I don't know if that's the best decision. So Seena then, will he get the DRS, or will it be given to Chris Johnson? I think Chris Johnson was past the detection point at that point.
Yeah, and, I'm pretty sure he was.
The game's done that thing where it doesn't register either of them because.
So Seena's going to get back ahead. Oh, Chris Johnson's tapped the Cena. He took way too much curve there, Chris Johnson, on the entrance to the corner and has spun. And Mike Newman, meanwhile, at the front is going for the lead of the race here. The Jacko around the outside, and he makes it stick. So Mike Newman in the lead. Cena up into 4th place, but I don't think Cena can be blamed for that, to be honest, because Chris Johnson just took way too much curve.
Yeah, it was kind of hard to tell from the angle I had. I think I was looking back on board with Cena and couldn't really tell much from the angle that I had, but Cena then, he's still kind of struggling out there. We have Sayer Sports all over him now. We've another yellow flag out there. I think we've got a spin for a Red Bull. It's actually Ferrari behind. So Baza has gone for a spin. Hopefully that's no further race interruption, although maybe that's what we need right now to get Cena sort of back into the game, because if the safety car comes out now, he'll lose the position to Sayer Sports, but only Sayer Sports.
Well, so here comes Sayer Sports now. And is he going to have a go here on the run into the bus stop chicane? I think he certainly will. Cena goes immediately defensive. They do slightly touch, but coming off into the corner now, and he touch again. And Sayer Sports goes round, and Cena's coming into the pit lane. And again, I think that was just a racing incident, to be fair.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything you can really apportion blame to Cena there. And when Joe went to the inside there, I mean, Cena was already there. Like, you know, there wasn't a gap. So let's see now.
Is he going to change his front wing? No, he's not changing his front wing.
So maybe it is just a genuine struggle. Maybe he's going for an extreme sacrifice in terms of turning ability.
Jacko getting back in the lead here ahead of Mike. We have got a battle for the lead going on as well, but of course we are focusing mainly on the championship contenders. Chris Johnson's crashed at Eau Rouge. Now, what's this going to do for the race? We've got the top two going wheel to wheel, and it's a full safety car just after Cena's pit stop. Now, I don't think it's going to harm them massively, really, considering there was so much of a gap anyway. So he'll probably be okay, but safety car will be deployed then. Chris Johnson's obviously dropped at Eau Rouge. The top two were almost going side by side there. Jacko just managed to get back ahead of Mike Newman before that safety car came out. So Jacko back in the lead, Wheelnut in 3rd, Cena in 5th, and look at that, he's just ahead of Dom. Oh, Dom nearly ran to the back of him there. So he almost got jumped by Dom coming out of the pit lane, but Cena just stays ahead, and he'll be thankful for that.
Yeah, so in terms of the drivers that have made stops, everyone behind Cena has made a stop. It's only the top 4 who have yet to make a pit stop. I don't quite think Mick Schumacher is far enough ahead to remain ahead of Cena. I think he needs just a few more seconds. It's quite a short pit lane, it has to be said, around here, but I think Mick Schumacher will still fall behind Cena and Dom, but I think he'll still actually be in the top 6.
Yeah, Mick Schumacher is going to benefit from this, isn't he?
He started last.
But, yeah. And here come the guys then into the pit lane. So Jacko obviously ahead, Mike Newman, Wheelnuts, and they'll all, of course, they won't want to be any speeded in the pit lane or anything going on here, but I assume... Oh, did he just hit the pit wall?
Yeah, he did. Well, actually, no. He hit the wall next to the pit wall. I've never seen anyone, even at racing speed, I have never seen.
Obviously, yeah, I can see the car now.
Well, that's interesting.
Well, how has he managed that?
I'm not even going to question it. I don't know. It's a camera angle. I just kind of had him drive straight into the wall, so I don't really know. It feels like one of those ones where an onboard would probably provide more confusion. So I'm just gonna move on there. So Cena's up to 4th now.
Yeah, so Cena is involved.
Yeah, I was intrigued,
and he's right back in the race now, of course. But yeah, it would have been interesting, wanted to see where he would have filtered back in there, but instead he filtered into a wall, and Cena is into 4th place then for sure, and will have a run on Wheelnut perhaps once this race gets going again. I would say, obviously we don't really know what's going to happen once the restart happens, but it does look like Jacko and Mike Newman have the pace over Wheelnut and Cena here, so you would imagine those two might run away with it and continue to do battle. Can Cena challenge Wheelnut? I would love to know if Cena still has damage though, and if he just deliberately chose not to have his front wing replaced on that pit stop on the previous lap. If he did do that, if he did turn the option on to no, it has probably helped them keep 4th place, because Dom probably would have been ahead if it was the other, if he did choose to change the front wing. But we'll see, as Jacko and Mike Noon still at the front.
That's the thing, it's hard to tell when you're in the car. You don't really get an accurate breakdown of like where you're actually going to filter back into the pack, because if he did have wing damage and he did change his wing, he'd only be 1 place further behind. But
yeah, exactly. I mean,
we don't know. He could have sacrificed a bit of turning, a bit of turn in for stability, because we know at this track crashes are quite frequent, and the curbs can really unsettle the car. So maybe he has gone for an understeerly setup and has sacrificed pace, and he just wants to get to the end of the race because he knows it's a race of attrition. But I've been in that position before where I've just said, you know what, I just want to finish. And sometimes you are better off doing it. So maybe that was the strategy, or maybe he just lacks pace, because then again his pace wasn't really there in qualifying either. So
yeah,
it makes sense if he's just lacking pace.
Well, just having a quick look at the comments here on the live stream, we've got Parser watching, saying what a race so far, and he's revising and watching at the same time, and I assume he will be cheering on Seena for this title as Stereogram comes into the pit lane. I think Blair Girls came back into the pit lane as well, didn't he, on the previous lap to get rid of those hard tyres. So too did Bazza as well, put soft tyres on, and Mr. John and Angel versus Death, and I assume now probably Stereogram as well. And we should be getting a restart at the end of this lap. And what, it'll be 3 laps. 3 lap shootout. I think we'll have DRS enabled on lap 10. So we'll get a couple of laps with DRS as well. And we'll see if anybody can challenge Jacko coming into these final few laps of the race. And if we get a nice battle between Mike Noon and Jacko, and what Seena can do about wheel nut. But right now, it's going to be going to the final race with a 13-point gap in the title if it stays like this. Seena's got fastest lap right now. Mike Noon's got fastest lap, so that's not going to have any sort of effect. Let's say it could all change, of course, in these final few laps. And as you say, Spa is usually a race of attrition in TGP, but we've only had 2 retirements so far.
Yeah, I mean, we've had 2 retirements, but we also have had we've had some spins, of course, for John Menzies twice, I believe. Nailjack's gone for a spin. We've had contact between Seena and both Aston Martin drivers. So I think did Bazza go for a spin as well? Yeah, he did. So we've had plenty of spins, but a lot of the drivers haven't actually found the wall when they've gone for their excursions. But now the pack's all close together, and now that most people are on medium tyres, which offer less grip to begin with, we could see some of that attrition come into play. But yeah, safety car should come in at the end of this, and we'll have 4 racing laps at the end with DRS enabled for 2 of them. So
it's looking a lot darker as well right now, but again, I say we don't think there's any rain scheduled. There was an 18% chance, I believe.
Yeah.
But yeah, it looked like it was going to be dry still all throughout, was predicted. So I assume it will stay that way. But here we go then, safety car in this lap. And what's going to happen here then? How will Jacko decide to back up the pack? And when will he go for it as Bert Mylander bolts away and will be making his way back into the pit lane? Let's see if Mike Noon can get a good jump and possibly challenge Jacko immediately, and if Seena can do anything about wheel nut.
Yeah, it's it's normally a fairly short sector when you're at full racing speed, but when you're at safety car train speed, it's a long sector in terms of distance, and Jacko has a lot of time to plan this, and it's not the most difficult track to really do a safety car restart, to be honest with you. But then again, actually, I tell a lie, because it is, because the Kemmel Straight, it follows immediately afterwards, and that'll be on Jacko's mind. And I don't know, has he gone for it there and taken the inside line when no one can overtake? Anyway, Jacko now leads this race. We have a 4-lap sprint to the end of the race, and let's see then how this pans out. We've got Dom with a big gap to Seena ahead, so Seena's got quite the amount of breathing room, and Mike Noon looks like he's got a pretty big run here on Jacko. He's using his overtake on the run down to Eau Rouge and through Radion. It's all looking pretty good so far. Wheelnut not too far behind, with Seena also in this gaggle of 4 cars. I don't think Mike's going to be close enough to make a move this lap. Indeed, he won't be. So it'll be as we were in the top 4 at this safety car restart.
Yeah, Mike Newton looked like he could have maybe had a go, but then I noticed as they were going through Eau Rouge, Jacko was flat out. Mike Newton lifted off the throttle slightly, but Blair Grills managed to get past Bazza into 10th, but then Bazza gets him straight back, and Bazza gets back into 10th place then. So maybe Mike Newton just needs to be a little bit more confident going through Eau Rouge, and he might be able to have a challenge. But Seena seems to have pulled away from Dom at this restart, but he's 7/10 back from Wheelnut. But again, it's these two, Mike Newton and Jacko, who are beginning to streak away here. And Mike Newton, is he going to go for a move now, perhaps? No. He's surely better off waiting to just give a big run here on the way to the bus stop chicane. You have to be so careful on the curb through there, don't you? It's so easy to drop the car. But I suppose Wheelnut isn't too far back. The 7/10 now separating them. Oh, did Mike Newton nearly drop it?
Almost. I'm surprised he saved it. Can Wheelnut then increase the gap between himself and Seena by a further 3 points by jumping up into P2? I don't think he will this time around. He gets a good bit of understeer through Blanchimont, but I think Mike Newton's just going to be able to hold on to this position. And now what Mike needs to do is work on getting back within a second of Jacko, but he's undone a bit of his work there. He made Jacko go defensive through that middle sector and was able to stay right on his tail, but the gap now, it's gone up to, well, let's see when they get out the hairpin, up to 8/10. Actually, you know what? Mike Newton has got a much better exit through La Source. DRS will not be enabled this lap, but let's see how he goes through Radion.
Jacko full throttle, and Mike Newton lifts slightly once again. And it looked like he was struggling with upshifting there as well.
Yeah, I think he must have thought he was
that was a bit strange.
A gear too high and he downshifted, but he was actually in the correct gear and he just lost himself about a tenth there by doing that. But Jacko looked like he went a bit deep through Lacombe there. So Mike Newton seems to have a better feeling on these medium tyres.
So Seena got quite close to Wheelnut there as well with a little bit of VRS use, but couldn't make the move as the 1% back now, as it's 44% energy for Seena, 70 for Wheelnut. So Seena certainly struggling there in that respect as Jacko flies through Kuan. And again, it's just whenever they go through this part of the track, you're just so careful with the curves. It just looks like any moment they're going to take a little bit too much and go spinning round. But Jacko has actually lost a bit of time in this middle sector. Mike Newton closing in a little bit, as I wondered if Mike Newton possibly running slightly higher downforce. Possibly. As he now uses the ERS to close in a little bit more. But yeah, certainly in that middle sector, Mike Newton closes in, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does, and less than half a second between the top two on lap 9 of 11 of this race. So let's see what he can do. He won't get DRS down this straight because the detection point is still on the 9th lap as opposed to the 10th, and Jacko then running very wide. And Mike Newton, will he sense his opportunity now as he takes the fastest lap of the race, which he already had? But Mike Newton opting not to throw it down the inside because of that DRS. So Mike Newton then is surely in a very handy position here to take the race lead. Just needs to not get caught up through Radion. And we know Jacko tends to be a bit quicker through here, and that is the case once again. But Mike Newton is very close, but he's losing momentum all the time. And I don't know, will he be close enough? He's gaining down this straight, but he's not going to be close enough to mount a challenge into Lacombe. And Seena, likewise, not close enough to Wheelnut just up ahead of him, as I think we have battles further behind between John Menzies and Neljak, but Neljak stays ahead of the Alfa Romeo driver. But up in front, yeah, I mean, I don't know, maybe is Mike Newton saving himself for a final lap pass?
I don't know, just every time they come out of La Source, it looks as though this will be the moment, won't it, for Mike Newton, but somehow Jacko manages to keep hold of it every time. Jacko is just so confident through Eau Rouge. I mean, I know, of course, it is slightly easier for Jacko going through there because, of course, he doesn't have any cars ahead of him. Mike Newton, they lose it on the curb there as well. That must have lost him a bit of time, and that might make Wheelnut close in a little bit as he comes on to this final lap. And at this race, Jacko won't even be under DRS threat at the start of this last lap, and Wheelnut might be quite close to Mike Newton to have a go, but final lap, and Seena is running so low on energy. Seena's on 6%, 5%. It's surely game over for him in terms of really closing in on these top three, I would say, with that lack of energy. 40% for Wheelnut, 40 for Mike Newton, 60 for Jacko. So it's looking good for Jacko. But can Wheelnut try anything to possibly have a go at Mike Noonan? Mike Noonan going to the very far left there as he starts the final lap of the race because he nearly dropped it.
But let's see. This is more than a second. But if Seena has no deployment, then it's not really going to matter. We're probably going to end up with the same top 4 as we are. But let's just see. They have to survive this final lap. And Mike Noonan there, I think he was a little bit quicker through there than normal. But now he's too far away.
Yeah, I think he is, and it looks as though it's going to stay with Jacko in the lead here. But as we know, Mike Noonan quite quick in that middle sector. Can he maybe close in to have one final go at the bus stop chicane? Meanwhile, Say Sports, is he going to go for Bazza here into Lake Com? No, he's not. He just had to pull out at the last second there as John Menzies gets into 10th place ahead of Blair Grills. But Mike Noonan is right there now, and Jacko once again, he catches up through this part of the track.
Yeah, Mike Noonan, it's he must have more downforce than the Ferrari ahead of him. But then again, you think he'd be quicker through Radion if that was the case. But he's all over the back of the Ferrari ahead of him. But he has less deployment at his disposal. But he does seem to have more pace and also more cornering speed. So let's see what the Williams driver can do. This will be his final opportunity on the final lap of the race. What can the Williams driver do? Can Jacko streak away here? It's a drag race.
And there's Jacko using his ERS immediately, but so does Mike Noonan. Jacko's got more of it. Can Mike Noonan pull in? Jacko defending, weaving about like Marcus Ericsson on the final lap of Indy. But can Mike Noonan, is he going to go for a dive bomb? Surely it'll be way too much of a risk.
Yeah, I think he thought about it. He tried to have a look at that inside line, and he was trying to do alternate lines, but it wasn't going to work out for him. But in the end then, it's Jacko who wins in Belgium. Mike Noonan is an excellent P2 with Wheelnut extending his championship lead by just 3 points over Seena, making the gap extend up to 13 points. With Dom Smith, a solid race, finishing in the top 5. Sayer Sports is 6th with Nell Jack, a very impressive 7th. With M. Shep 8th. John Menzies, after some incidents earlier on in the race, with himself, he spun, is 9th, and let's just quickly check who finished the top 10 when the results come up. But driver of the day will go to Neljak, and I think that's fair enough. Solid race from the Williams driver. Williams P2 and P7 in that race, so solid haul of points for them. As we see Jacko celebrating with the Ferrari team representative, the nondescript Ferrari team representative. The filler character that they've had to use. Ferrari mustn't have been keen on sending someone out, but anyway, I'm sure Jacko and Mike will be pretty happy with that. So Mike Noonan taking the fastest lap, so it's 19 points for the Williams driver. And if we assume the things will remain as they are on the screen, with Seena P4, who knows, may be under investigation for lap 1, turn 1, but we'll see how that pans out. But it was Mr. John who was the driver who completed the top 10. Blair Grills, after some penalties and also some incidents throughout that race, ends up 11th with Indecisive Mackie, Angel vs Death and Red Bull Kim completing the points, with Stereogram 15th. Bazza retired on the final lap. Didn't quite have enough time to mention that because it was at the final chicane for the leaders. Yeah. With Mick Schumacher DNFing in a way I feel only Marco can, and Chris Johnson the other DNF in that race.
Okay then, so coming into this final race of the season here at Silverstone, and yeah, that win for Jacko, it has put him onto 242 points, but it's not enough for him to challenge for the title coming into this final race. He could still get second place, but it's not enough for him to challenge for the title. It's Wheelnut on 277, Seena on 264, so 13 points is the gap. So and Seena could win. Seena would need to win the race and get fastest lap if Wheelnut was to finish in 4th, because Wheelnut would win on countback even if Seena was to take the win. So he'd have to get the win and fastest lap for him to take the title, but Wheelnut would have to be off the podium for that to happen. Just needs to be a controlled, measured race from Wheelnut, and you would think he could probably have it won, but you know, anything can happen. And I suppose, you know, the difference in the amount of wins that, you know, this season, just look at the Wheelnut won 6 races, Seena's only won 2, but so it just shows really that Seena's a lot more consistent. As a result, he doesn't necessarily win more races, but when Wheelnut has a bad race, it can be a really bad race, and if that's to happen again here, then he might throw away the title.
Yeah, and Silverstone, it's I'd say not as bad as Spa in terms of potential for spins and crashes and what have you, but there are still a few corners around here that can be a bit treacherous, particularly on worn tyres. Kind of thinking of Cops and the Margaret Beckett's section. Even turn 1 can cause a few spins, so very intrigued to see how this one pans out. We normally end up with pretty entertaining races around the circuit, and as we get ready to go, qualifying around here, and no idea what's going to happen, but I think that's what we want.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is it then, the final race of TGP on F1 2021, and once we actually get to the track, and once we just see what the weather is and everything, I do want to ask you a question, Roy, which I've been waiting to ask, but we'll just wait for a minute. Just want to see first what the weather's going to be first, so we can just clear that up. And then I have something to ask, which I think many people would quite like to know the answer to. Just wait and see. These guys obviously on the tyre selection screen right now, even though, of course, it's not really relevant in this game. Come on, Josiah.
I was wondering if Seena was overthinking things here. As the pressure got to him, is he thinking about things that have already been decided for him?
Yeah.
I really hope that's gone for the next game.
Oh,
but anyway, let's see.
Sports has actually gone completely. He's totally actually left the session, so hopefully he can rejoin. But it's dry, certainly for this quali session. Just looking at Stereogram stream to see what it's gonna be like for the race, and bear with. Is it going to be a wet race? Is it going to be a dry race? It's going to be a dry race. Yeah, so dry race then. Dry qualifying, dry race. So yeah, so this is the final race on this game. So I thought this would be surely the best time to ask, Roy, how do you get such good starts on this game? Because it's been absolutely incredible, some of the race starts you've managed to get. And you know, it's a new game coming out in a couple of weeks, and a totally new car, so I'm sure there'll be all different ways of getting to maximise the starts. So surely this is the perfect opportunity to reveal the secret.
You know, I was actually thinking of revealing my little trick at the starts, because as you know, it does serve me well, and considering that I usually start on mediums and still get slightly better starts than the people around me, it's clearly a trick that works quite well. Although, interestingly though, it doesn't actually work as well on some tracks as it does others.
No, I'm sorry, this is just not a thing.
But it is a thing.
You always say in Baku it doesn't work.
It doesn't work in Baku, no. It doesn't work in Baku. But you know what? It really, really works well in Yas Marina. I started 12th on the mediums and I was 9th at turn 1. It was fantastic. But the thing is, I decided against revealing it because it could just work on the next game, and then my power would be diminished. So, if it doesn't work on F1 22, I will reveal it.
Oh, great! Thanks for that.
On the first week of the next season of TGP2, and I'll tell you how I get the starts that I get. I wonder if Seena does the same thing.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, Seena gets such good starts as well, but of course he's also in an AlphaTauri, which is why I did think for a while it was possibly some sort of AlphaTauri glitch or something.
But then my AlphaTauri teammates have not had the same fortune at,
that's a good point.
At race starts. But it's sort of, it's been a handy little asset to have, considering that my race pace is usually non-existent in TGP1. So it's the one thing I have. I think it works in the wet as well. It's just that I don't really work in the wet. I'm a bit useless as soon as any sort of precipitation starts falling. But I think every wet race we've done in TGP1 on this game, when I've been on the wheel, I have spun. So Yeah, sad times. I don't know if I've ever actually. I have won races in the wet in TGP1, so I was thinking, what is it just me in general? But no, I was actually somewhat competent back in the day. But
Well,
who knows?
anyone
F122 could
has
change that.
anyone has any ideas about how Roy gets good starts, put them in the comments, because it's the last race. So no one's ever going to use the technique anymore, unless of course it does work on F1 2022, which would be funny. But anyway, let's let's see what happens in this
I'm
qualifying
actually.
session. Oh, Shep's gone off there at Cops, but he hasn't DNF'd.
Sometimes you can get very lucky at that corner if you hit it like just directly head on. Um, but yeah, do you know what? Actually, I'm genuinely nervous for F122 when I do my first race start. I really hope it works again, because it is amusing. I'll be honest with you. I won't. I'll try to remember as this quality session goes on what my best race start was this season. I think there was some race where I just disappeared off the line. Um, but yeah, didn't really have many other highlights in the season other than that. I kind of just existed. But of course,
Well,
we were in the fight for P5 somehow.
yeah, of course, yeah, and somehow I got it because for some reason I had a worldie of a race at Abu Dhabi, which was highly unexpected. But we got the first few laps on the board there, and at the minute it's wheel nuts. It seems to have a bit of an advantage over Seena by about a tenth and a half, and Chris Johnson's actually just split the pair of them there. It's Jacko on pole at the minute though with a very quick 127.9. Wheelnut 128.5, Chris Johnson 28.6, Seena 28.7. So could this be the second track of the night where Seena's just missing those couple of tenths?
Possibly, yeah. And Jacko at the moment looks quite comfortable, but we know, like, sometimes we don't. Oh well, actually,
Oh,
I was gonna say sometimes we don't really see the representative laps until the last few minutes, but I think that's kind of proving it there. I think a lot of drivers will have a lot of time to find. I don't think Cena is 1.1 seconds off. Will
I
not.
certainly
So,
hope he's not
well, actually,
for the drama of this final race of the season. It would be a shame if this turned out to be a terrible track for Cena, but he's backed off a little bit there now, so I assume he's going to go for another lap now.
you'd imagine so. I don't know how much fuel these drivers run because I'm never able to do any of this. But we'll see what the AlphaTauri driver can do, and I will miss this livery. Oh,
Oh,
well,
he
let's
spun.
hope he doesn't do that anymore. But yeah, I will miss this livery. It's quite an underrated one. It's subtle, it's sleek. I quite like it. I prefer it to the one they have this year in Real F1. I'll be honest, but I still like it, but I just prefer this one.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I think
that's
I
not
can do
what's
that.
in the needs. Um, let's see who else have we
Yeah,
got. Baz is on his medium tyre run again for whatever reason.
Mike Nunes spun at Maggots. So that must have been a pretty dramatic spin, but he's got away with it and doesn't seem to have damaged the car or anything. So he gets going once more, and I assume he'll be coming into the pit lane. Got John Menzies on a lap. No, he's not, because he's also
Oh,
coming into the
yeah,
pit lane.
I was on board with him there, and I was I thought something good was coming. Um, Now Jack's coming into the pits. Now Jack currently in P5. I think he'd be very happy with that if that's how the session ended. But of course, we do still have more than half of the session left. Seeing, of course, not on a lap. Baza is not on a lap either because it's invalid. Mackie the same. Red Bull Kim is on a lap, but I think he's the only driver who's on a lap heading through the final corner now. What can the Haas driver do? He improved by nearly a second, but will remain in P13 for the moment. And his teammate Shep is actually about to start a lap, and let's see how the Haas driver does. Every now and again, Shep will have a very solid qualifying session, but then
Yeah,
it does seem that track limit violations are his Achilles heel, and there are quite a number of them that he commits in races. And I think he has cost himself a lot of points by doing that. But I think for the new game, I think his aim has got to be reducing those errors, and I think podiums and who knows maybe the odd win here and there will actually start coming his way.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that, and he has definitely got better as this game has progressed over the past few months. But this is where he spun last time round on the entry to Cops, and he's very wide through there again. But he doesn't invalidate the lap there, but he will have lost a hell of a lot of time.
Yeah, but the thing is, I mean, if he just sets a lap at this point, he'll get himself ahead of a few drivers. So let's see then through the second sector, is he going to a tow from his his Haas teammate? The answer was no, because he wasn't really going quick enough to generate any air. But M. Shep then, what can he do in this final sector through the Vale chicane? I've never really liked this chicane, I'll be honest with you, but through club then, the final corner, back end got a bit loose there, but fourth. Okay,
decent.
well, I mean, and here we were criticising his lap, saying, oh yeah, he's lost time there, that wasn't great. And here he is, P4, second row. Well, for now anyway. I think Dom was the other driver who was on an outlap. He's just done the first sector. He's over a tenth and a half up on his previous best, which, will only elevate him up a position if he matches his next two sectors. But let's see then what the Alpine driver can do. He's got a banker lap in there. Only good enough for ninth at the moment though, but let's see then as the drivers continue to chip away at their initial efforts, then how does he handle it? He takes a lot of curb.
I love seeing how all drivers take Cops on this game. They all have different ways of trying to get through it, and then especially then as they go through Maggots and Beckett, it's always fascinating to watch. Tom was super aggressive on the turning into Cops, but a bit wide there on the exit of Stowe, but hopefully he hasn't lost too much time as he hits the brakes for this final chicane. 28.8 is his current lap time. He's surely going to improve on that, but let's see by how much he goes up into fourth.
Yeah, it's actually fairly close. We've a few 28.6s in there, and Seena, I think he has just done a lap.
He's just starting a lap now, Seena. Seena's just starting a lap right now. But ahead of him is...
second attempt, though?
No, I think he's just been on an outlap. This is his first lap right now. But Wheelnut is coming through Maggots and Beckett's a little bit further around the track. And I think he was up slightly in the first sector. Let's see if he's going to be up even further at the second point. He is. He's 2.5 tenths up right now then. So is Wheelnut about to lower the benchmark once more?
Let's see then what the Mercedes driver does. He misses the apex a little bit at Stowe, but seemed to carry decent enough speed. What can he do through Vale? He understeers a bit in the first part, which compromises his exit now on the run to the line, but Wheelnut crosses the line, finds 100th, so I think he'll be disappointed with that overall. But Seena then, he is coming through the final sector, or the second sector now, and he's nearly 6 tenths up on his time. He could find his way up into the top three, maybe the front row here.
I can improve slightly. I think Dom's also going to improve. I think he's just ahead of Seena on the track. It's going to be Dom and then Seena's across the line here. And we'll see if Dom can get anywhere close to the guys up towards the front, higher up the grid. Now he stays in fourth. Seena crosses the line and he goes into fourth. And he's just off third place as well. So Seena is... I noticed at the second sector point, Seena was half a second off on what Wheelnut was at that point. So he's actually pulled it back as he's slightly... only ever so slightly though, listed by just a few, hundreds of a second there, but he got that into fourth place. But yeah, he's missing about 4 or 5 tenths, it seems at the moment.
I do wonder then if he's matching his final sector, does that mean there was a mistake in there, or there was a bit of caution being applied by the AlphaTauri driver? I think now that Seena's done a fairly solid lap, and he sees that Wheelnut is the driver who's on provisional pole anyway, he may as well just go for it at the end of the session.
As well.
He's got nothing to lose, really.
Absolutely go all out in this final lap, but I mean, he's so close, really, isn't he, to getting at least second place? I mean, there's 3 tenths between Wheelnut and Jacko, so if he can just find, all he needs to find is another 10.5, really. Just over a 10.5, and he'll be up onto a front row. And we know what Seena can do from the start line of a race as well. So he just needs that one super lap in this, what I assume will be his final run in just a moment. and I think he would happily accept a second place at the minute, but because that lap by Wheelnut looks to be out of reach for the time being. But it's a great lap by Bazza, though, really, isn't it, to be up there in third place at the moment, and he's still out on track here. I don't know if he's pushing to go again for another lap. No, I don't think he is, because his first sector was 4 seconds off, and he's actually going very slow into Cops there.
I think M Shep, has he spun at the final corner? That is possible, actually, if you take away too much curb. So maybe then he has. And I think M Shep, who showed promise early in the session, will start no higher than P9. So I wonder if he falls out of the top 10. He'll just throw a set of mediums on at the start of the race and hope for a safety car. But who have we got who's on a lap or about to start a lap? We've got Jacko on an out lap.
Yeah, Jacko is
gone early.
There's not many cars out on track at the minute, obviously, because they're all getting ready for the final runs. But Jacko is much halfway around the track now, and he will be the first driver to start the final run. I actually wonder almost if he might be trying 2 laps here, because he would certainly have enough time to get 2 laps in. But let's see, can he get anywhere near that 1:27.6 of Daniel Wheeler? It's a very, very quick lap time. Just having a look, I think Wheeler's second sector is just so quick, and that's where he seems to be finding most of his time.
So let's see what Jacko can do then on his final attempt. He's got 3/10 and an extra 12 thousandths to find if he wants to take pole position. So the yellow flag in sector 3, so his driver's backing off, that's all fine. So let's see then how Jacko negotiates the loop. Seems to be all under control. Rear end stable on exit. DRS open now down the Wellington Straight, I believe this one is. And he's a 10th up already. Now, if he can do that, if he can find a 10th in each sector, then he's all good. Quite wide through Luffield, doesn't quite cut back in as he probably would have wanted to. So car a little bit understeery there in the second sector. Now let's see how he negotiates Cops. Misses the apex a little bit there and decides to keep it wide through the exit there, and keeps his lap time valid. So through this S's section now, let's see where Jacko finds himself after the second sector, and that's very much enough time to...
It's exactly even with what Wheelnut was on his quickest lap of 1:03.5.
So it's all down to the final sector then. How will Jacko negotiate this final sector? He crosses the line in just a few seconds, and he will take provisional pole by nearly 3/10 of a second, over a quarter of a second ahead of Wheelnut. Let's see where the other drivers are. Seena is in the first sector. Daniel is in the second sector. So Bazza gets nicely out of the way.
I mean, Jacko, did he exploit something there when he took that really wide line into Cops? Because I noticed he was totally flat out through the corner as well. Stuck to the outside, and he's put it on pole. But to be fair, I don't think he would have found 3/10 just from doing that. So it was just all round a great lap from Jacko, as Wheelnut's 4/10 off here. So I don't think there's going to be any improvement for Wheelnut this time round. Yeah, it's probably best to back off and try one more time. Watching Seena here now, he's about to come through to the second sector point as well. Can he find any time? Can he get into at least a 1 minute freeze at this second sector point? Oh, it's not the best line through Maggots and Beckett. Let's see, he crosses it, and he is now he's pretty much exactly where he was on the previous lap. So again, Seena is missing a bit of time there, and I think that time we actually were able to identify where he lost quite a bit of it.
Yeah, I mean, even just the very first entry point, like he was too far to the left when he was heading into Maggots, and I don't really know why that was the case. But let's see then, can he improve? He does to P3. So his final sector was quite quick, but that middle sector was a bit of a mess, as Jacko's
gone even quicker.
Finds further improvements. It's surprised you have the deployment to do 2 laps around here. I didn't think the...
Tell you what, Mike New can do here at the end of the lap, because this is crucial now, because we know Seena gets such good starts, but can Mike New make him lose a position? No, he can't. Now, what can Bazza and Dom do? because if Bazza and Dom can get in there, can get ahead, this would be devastating for Seena. But let's see, as Dom tries to break Seena for the final chicane.
He has to find a good final sector.
Yeah, it is going to have to be a really good final sector, but it looks quite good.
Oh,
and
it is.
He does get ahead of Seena by 3,000ths of a second. And what can Bazza do as well? We know he's quick around here. We saw his early lap. Although it's only a 104.0. Again, that's equal with Seena last time round, and he's very close to Seena as it is with the previous lap. If he can just find a bit more time in his final sector, he might knock Seena back down to 5th place where he was before these final runs first started.
And he takes a nice bit of apex through the Vale chicane there, gets his line rather nice. Let's see where the Ferrari driver will end up. It's P3 comfortably. And he lost a good bit of time in the second sector.
He's still pushing Mike Mooney as well. This could be an absolute disaster. 30 seconds ago, it was looking fantastic for Seena to at least be up there with Wheelock for the start, but now he's facing the start of 5th place, and Mike Newman is 3/10 up, but 103.6. But as you say, he's got no deployment.
He's going to lose pretty much all of that.
So much, yeah. His delta right now will just be ticking down as he goes down the straight here, because you just do not find much time at all when you have such little deployment left. Let's see how much time he might have lost. Let's see if he can possibly get in there up into 4th place, perhaps. He goes into 3rd place. Wow.
Well, I mean, that probably could have been pole had he actually had a fully functional battery. But that's it for qualifying then. Wheelnut P2, Seena P6.
Those final 30 seconds of that qualifying session might be the moment that Seena loses this championship, because it looked like he was set for 3rd place, and then Mike Nguyen, Bazza, Dom all improved, and all managed to improve to go ahead of Seena, but they couldn't match Wheelnut's time, so they've managed to split them, and that is not good at all for Seena. He really needs to have one of his good starts now.
I'm trying to think if Silverstone is one of the tracks where the trick works. I think it kind of is. Yeah, it's not too bad around here, so it'd be interesting to see what Seena can do in the AlphaTauri. That definitely isn't OP at starts. So we have Jacko. That's serious. It genuinely isn't. But anyway,
yeah, okay,
Jacko from Wheelnut. So yeah, the main takeaway here is we've got Wheelnut in P2, Seena P6. 3 cars in between them at the start. Jacko is no longer in contention, and I will say we have some good news for Seena fans out there. Of course, he is one of the more popular drivers. We have Parsa supporting him in the chat. He is not under investigation for anything in Spa, so that result will stand. Any collision at the start was deemed a racing incident. Maybe Seena didn't even make contact with them, but it just looked like it from the way the cars were. So that result that Seena achieved, which I believe was P4 in Spa, will stand.
So here we go then. This is it, the final race on the F1 2021 game in TGP. All Wheelnut's got to do is potentially just finish where he's starting, and he will have the championship won. But what can Seena do?
Not normally nervous before the starts, but I am now as we get the lights on the gantry. 5 lights on, 5 lights off, and we are away, and it looks like a pretty decent start for Jacko, and we've got Dom Smith actually making the excellent start. We've got Seena up now into P5. He's going very wide through turn 1, but Wheelnut takes the lead. Jacko's down to 3rd. Jacko's actually had a horrible start. We've got Mike Nguyen now. Oh, Mike, there's damage behind. Can't even tell which car that came from, but now Seena is up into P3, going side by side with Jacko in the Ferrari, and there's contact between the two of them, and Jacko's spun round.
What
Virtual
was Jacko
safety
doing there?
car.
Well, say what, Seena is so lucky to have escaped that. Jacko just decided to hang in there, hang in the move, and it was clear that Seena had the position. And Jacko, it backfired for Jacko because he went spinning. Seena somehow managed to keep 3rd place. Bazza absolutely sent one at turn 3, which is what caused all that chaos where all the drivers were going out wide, and Seena managed to take full advantage of that and essentially sort of went round the outside of them all. Sorry, went round very much the inside of them all, and managed to get up into 3rd place, and then he was side by side with Jacko. and they made some slight contact. Jacko went spinning. Somehow Seena kept it together, and he's in third place right now. But Wheelnut has quite a lead, doesn't he?
He does, yeah. I'm not going to pay too much attention to the interval time because we're under virtual safety car, so we'll see how that works a few corners afterwards. But yeah, I mean, he's got a good bit of distance between himself and Mike Noon in P2. But I suppose for Seena, he was pitted there. Yeah, I mean, it's not really worth the risk, I'd say. I'd say you're probably better off staying out. But I think drivers will pit. Nell Jack and Chris Johnson decide to pit.
I mean, Chris Johnson's on pit lane, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, virtual safety car's already ended. I'd imagine that Chris Johnson has some sort of damage though, because he started the race on medium tyres. But the softs do last around here, as Jacko is going to go for another spin there at turn number 1, or the exit of turn 1. But keeps it on the track just about.
Oh, my goodness, dropped it! I've seen it's going to get into second place.
Oh, well, he's gone. Cena's car looks very loose through that corner. But, well, would you look at who's P1 and P2 in this race? Absolutely fantastic. Now, hopefully, for our sake and for Cena's sake, that he'll be able to catch up now to Wheelnut out in front. Because at the moment, it's the two of them fighting for the championship, who are also fighting for this race win, as Mike Noon had a bit of a moment and is now running in P3. He's got John Menzies all over the back of him, with Dom Smith just behind.
So, interesting stuff then. Second lap of this race, Wheelnut leads by 1.7 seconds from Seena, but don't forget, of course, even if Seena was to take the lead and Wheelnut was to be second, it would still obviously be Wheelnut's championship. Seena needs to win, and Wheelnut needs to be off the podium. So Seena has still got to hope for some sort of additional miracle to happen in this race. There's going to be 10 laps to go in just a moment. But Seena at the moment looks set in second place, as John Menzies also had a decent start up into fourth right now, as there's quite a big gap, 27-second gap from 10th to 11th place. Of course, they're all the guys who have pitted.
I love that fastest lap graphic. It just switched from Daniel to Seena. So Seena on that lap just a little bit quicker than the Mercedes driver up ahead. And,
Mike Noon is again so deep into the corner there. And he's coming under threat from John here.
I did think it was actually Mike Noon who caused some of the incidents at turn 3 on lap 1. Not just due to his previous reputation, but because he was very deep into the corner, and it does seem that he's struggling a little bit with his braking points. And he's got John Menzies, in the gravel behind him, so he's losing a good bit of time there. But John Menzies looks like he has a bit more pace than the Williams driver. Speaking of which, Seena has actually kind of dropped Mike Noon now, and is just edging ever closer to Wheelnut up ahead. And I think if we get some kind of safety car later on in this race, I think we could be in for quite a battle.
So we've got Jacko just made his move past Dom on a bit earlier on in this lap, and see if he can close in so that guys in third and fourth place here. But here comes John Menzies now, and I assume he will have DRS. Yes, he does. But the corner arrives just in time for Mike Noon, but he's coming under ever-increasing pressure from the guy behind him, John Menzies, and of course Mike Noon probably not going to get DRS on this lap, and he gets slightly out of shape there. And can John Menzies possibly have a go at the start of this lap? And once again, Seena takes the fastest lap of the race. But John Menzies right behind Mike Noon here, sweeping through the first couple of corners, running up that hill with no problem, and into the next corner. Let's see, this where Mike Noon is so deep all the time. And once again, he's way too. He seems allergic to that apex at turn 3. He's never anywhere near it. But John Menzies now has DRS in this first sector for the first time. Don't think he's going to be close enough to mount any kind of move. I thought he was actually going to go for it there. But they're all under control, and the gap in front, 1.4 seconds, 1.5 seconds. Let me just get the telemetry up there and see how the deployment's looking. Okay, Seena's using quite the amount of deployment. I don't know if that's just to build himself a gap between himself and Mike Noon, or if he's looking to replace that ERS with DRS, but it's not really working so far. The gap is quite stable, so I'd say Wheelnut has more raw pace at the moment. Oh, Mike Noon again, he's all over the place, going through where Beckett's there. So John Menzies will have a great run this time, and Mike Noon is having to defend a little bit stronger here. But once again, I think he might just get away with it.
Yeah, he does. It's difficult to outbrake somebody into Stowe, given how quick the cars are and how much downforce they have. So you almost kind of want to be at least side by side when you get into the corner. As Dom Smith comes into the pits, Jacko setting the fastest lap there. It's only 1.1 seconds now between the two drivers out in front, but Seena's basically depleted his battery, and surely then that hands the advantage to Wheelnut. And I think in terms of these two fighting each other, I think it would require safety car intervention, but we're kind of getting to the point now where drivers are going to be pitting for medium tyres. But the softs do last a good time around here, so we'll have to see how it pans out. But there's a 2-second gap between Mike Noon and Seena, and Mike Noon does seem a little bit ragged behind, with John Menzies especially all over the back of him, and John Menzies nearly has a full battery.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure, really. I think Seena is just trying to put Wheeler under as much pressure as possible to try and force him into making some sort of mistake. But look at this battle here now for third place that we've got. It's going to be interesting to see what happens here with these guys when they all come in for the pit stop as well. As you say, John Menzies has got a lot of battery, but to be fair, so does Mike Noon, and so does Jacko, who actually has more than both of them. As DRS will now be deployed, and John Menzies is going to close in here, but actually Jacko will close in on John, and maybe he might get the position.
Yeah, Jacko up the inside. John Menzies is not using his battery down that straight. I'm not quite sure what the tactic is there. But Jacko then going defensive into the Vale chicane. He finds his way back up into the top four. Still pretty close between the top two. Now that the battery is pretty much gone for Seena, it does look like the pace is actually beginning to even out. So maybe Seena then does actually have a bit of pace, but he's used up all his battery, and not really sure where or how it's going to pan out from here. But Jacko then all over the back of Mike Noon, and Mike Noon has picked up a penalty for track limit violations. John Menzies has sort of been left behind, and I don't think Jacko's going to be close enough. He tried to. I don't know if that was him missing his braking point or if he was trying something there, but didn't really work out for him anyway. And his exit through Luffield wasn't great either. So Jacko will remain in P4 this time around, but you'd imagine if he gets a solid run through the end of this sector that he'll be all over the back of the Williams driver ahead.
Yeah, I think you might be right, as Mike Noon again quite slow coming off the back of Cops there, and Jacko will surely be on him on this lap, and again Mike Noon all out of shape through there as well. So this should be, you would imagine, a relatively easy move for Jacko to get back up into a podium position. And after that spin that he had at the start, he's back into third place now. Will Mike Noon pit? Possibly. Seena's pitting, so Seena's going to come in. He did use a hell of a lot of his energy, but now he does come into the pit lane. Mike Noon doesn't pit, and actually almost got back past Jacko there.
But now Jacko has the better exit, and with the help of that DRS, he picks up the fastest lap of the race. Now let's see where Seena... someone's gone for a spin. It's Mike Noon. He's gone for a spin at turn number 1. I wonder if his tyres are wearing just a little bit too much, and sometimes the car can just pivot on you if the rears have a bit too much wear on them. And he's now battling with Angel versus Death, who's actually having a pretty solid race around here. He's currently 5th. A few of the drivers ahead have pitted, of course, but I think it's actually only really Dom and Seena that have come into the pits. So Angel versus Death are having a pretty good race out there, but Seena's got 8 seconds of clear space ahead of him. He's got Stereogram up ahead, who he will catch sooner rather than later, you'd imagine, but Stereogram yet to pit and could move out of his way.
Well, if Seena flies here, he may jump Wheelnuts. It might not be enough for the championship, but it might be enough for a race win here if he can fly on this lap. Wheelnuts is using his energy now, look, because it's down to 50%, so obviously he recognises that he has to push on this lap, and I assume he's going to come in on this lap. As let's see, I imagine also, well, surely Mike Noon's going to come in on this lap as well after that big spin he's just had. But yeah, here comes Wheelnuts coming into the pit lane, and he'll brake. He'll want to get it under 37 miles per hour, which is what he manages to do. Doesn't get a penalty. Jacko also coming in. John Menzies staying out, interestingly, on the soft tyres. Mike Noon comes in as well, and Angel vs Death stays out as well. So Angel vs Death will be running up into second place right now.
I'll tell you what, if a safety car comes out now, I mean, Angel vs Death is going to be pretty handy. currently running in P2. And actually, I'd imagine if the safety car did come out, he may even actually be P2 if the safety car came out. But let's see then. Where's Seena then versus Wheelnut? Wheelnut's at the end of the pit lane.
I think Wheelnut is going to do it. This might be the moment that effectively confirms the championship for Wheelnut out the pit lane, and he's way ahead of Seena. Seena just going through turn 1 now, and Wheelnut, it's 2.4 seconds, so actually Wheelnut managed to pull away. He had a fantastic lap on his in lap, and he's nailed it, and it looks as though Wheelnut is heading for his first TGP title.
Quite possibly, yeah. Don't want to foreshadow too much because it's by no means guaranteed. But Jacko is now just 1.4 seconds behind Seena. The pair of these drivers you see on screen have collided, of course, on lap 1. And Jacko will surely not be very happy with the outcome of that. But I don't really think it was Seena's fault. But anyway, Jacko, though, crucially for him, pretty much has a full battery at his disposal. Whereas Seena does not. Seena is under 20%, so the difference of about 70% between the two of them.
Yeah, I think the only person who can stop Wheelnut now from winning this championship is himself, quite frankly, if he was to have some sort of spin. But at the minute it is looking very, very good for Wheelnut to take this title. And Seena, if anything, as you say, it looks like he might come under some pressure from Jacko. But John Menzies comes in now. Now, of course, he stayed out the extra lap. Is he going to be quite close to the likes of Seena and Jacko on the pit exit? Or will he be mixed in with Mike Noon, perhaps, maybe? There he comes on this pit exit. I think Jacko and Seena are probably going to be ahead. Yeah, I think they're definitely going to be ahead of them. Yes, they are indeed. And Mike Noon is just starting his next lap now. And John Menzies is already out the pit lane. So, actually, John Menzies is way ahead of Mike Noon, of course, after that spin that Mike had. As Stereogram goes off the track, I think he's just getting out the way of Seena and Wheelnut and Jacko.
Yeah, I had a bit of a moment of panic there because I just saw, Wheelnut's position change. I mean, my brain didn't cop that he went up a place, but I was thinking, oh no, what's happened? Oh, but there's Jacko with a 3-second time penalty. So that gives Seena one less thing to worry about. If Jacko gets up to the back of him, there's no point fighting him too hard because of that penalty. Seena should have enough pace, despite the lack of usable deployment. He should have enough pace to stay within 3 seconds. And in fact, I mean, the gap between the two of them has remained pretty stable after the pit stops. But Wheelnut losing a bit of time through Maggart and Beckett there. Didn't have the smoothest run, but still just under 2 seconds clear of Seena behind as Michael Kenny finally comes into the pits. Angel versus Death, Michael Kenny, same person, but he's having a pretty good race out in front. Oh, well, I mean, now Ceena's got something to worry about. That's, well, I mean, Wheelnut's got, he's got a hand on the trophy now. I was going to say he's got a finger on it, but I mean, it's the whole hand now. As you said, the only person who can stop him is himself. He has a yellow flag in Sector 2. That is for a Haas of M. Shep.
Just see where Angel versus Death comes out the pit lane here. I think he's going to be... Will he be ahead of Dom? No, he won't be ahead of Dom. I think he'll be ahead of Mr. John. Will he? No, there's Angel versus Death. Will he be out ahead of his teammates? He gets out into 10th place. And he's on the medium sides then. Fresh mediums for the rest of this race. So we'll see if he can maybe close in even further. Chris Johnson, who's done the alternate strategy, got a piss of first lap, didn't he? I think to possibly get that repair damage as well. But he's into 5th place. But he's had to take those soft tyres quite a long way to the finish.
The tyre wear around here isn't actually terrible, but yeah, I mean, still 12 laps is a bit of a stretch, and you'd imagine, it was definitely due to damage that he pitted on lap number 1. He wouldn't have done that otherwise. But he did gain some time back because of the virtual safety car, the partial virtual safety car affected pit stop. But out in front, it's only 1.3 seconds between Wheelnut and Seena. Jacko is now in the DRS range of the AlphaTauri in front. Now these two will be fighting for net positions here. Wheelnut effectively has a 4.2 second lead because of Seena's penalty, unless he picks one up himself. There are still 3 laps of this race left to go. As the two drivers behind are quicker.
Dom and Eljak going side by side, and Dom gets ahead into 7th place then. as Chris Johnson also has got back in within a shot of getting back past Mike Noon there. Mike Noon got past fairly easily, but actually he's still there, Chris Johnson. So we've got battles for second, battles for fifth, battles for seventh going on right now on the track, as Seena is super low on energy here, as a light is flashing, but Jacko can't get close this time around.
No, and Jacko has over 50% of his deployment left to use, so you'd imagine if he can get any kind of run and can be close enough, it will be fairly easy pickings for the Ferrari driver. Of course, he's just racing for position because after the last race, despite winning it, he fell out of championship contention. But let's see now. Seena's already derating as he goes through Maggots and Beckett's. Yellow flag in sector 1. We're not going to focus on that right now as Jacko deploys his battery and the DRS. Let's see what the Ferrari driver does. Will he take the inside? Will he take the outside? It's the inside line for the Ferrari driver. And a bit of contact there. Seena breaks very late behind. The two of them are now side by side heading into the Vale chicane. And Jacko there, he runs very deep. He tries to run Seena wide, but in the end it's Seena takes the distance. Jacko's gone for a spin. Jacko spins there. I think that was his own fault.
Yeah, he had a huge amount of wheel spin, massive amount of wheel spin, and just dropped the car. So I don't think that was Seena's fault. He was definitely making contact on the entry into Vale chicane there, but certainly on the exit, it looks as though he just lit the rear tyres up there, Jacko, and went around, and he's actually still in fourth place. So he hasn't recovered fairly well there from that spin. But Seena will remain in second place then, and of course he's got a 3-second penalty still, but John is 5 seconds behind, so we won't be under any threat with that just yet.
No, John will require a pretty mighty final 2 laps, or maybe a bit of a mistake from Seena to get within 3 seconds. But yeah, Jacko then having an incident with Seena, and both times I don't really think you can blame Seena for either of those incidents. Mike Noon is now right behind Jacko. Jacko, of course, has just spun on these tyres, so his tyre wear will be a little bit accelerated. Mike Noon turns in a bit too early there, takes a bit too much curb, and compromises his exit. Should still remain within DRS range of the driver ahead of him, and his battery management is actually quite good. So we could have a battle between these two on the final lap, and he's using his ERS now, is Mike Noon. Chris Johnson is still with Mike Noon on these fairly ancient soft tyres. Of course, he pitted on lap 1 to change these, but we may have a 3-car battle for P4 in the end. Dom's kind of just on his own now. He's dispatched Jack, and we've got Mr. John potentially actually going to be fighting Jack for P8 as Mr. John goes a bit wide through the second part of the Vale chicane. But Mike Noon then, I think this will be the first battle that we get to see. Jacko versus Mike Noon versus Chris Johnson. Jacko going a bit deep, but then again so does Mike Noon. Chris Johnson probably with the best line of the three of them. Jacko a bit wide through the final corner, but Mike Noon a little bit out of shape, and Jacko immediately breaks the toe. A little bit dramatic on this game because the slipstream is not really that powerful, but Jacko retains fourth.
So on the final lap then, the final lap of this season, the final lap for Daniel P. Wheelnut, and you have to say he's about to take his 7th win of this season, which is going to be 4 more than any other driver in this season in TGP, and you have to say he fully deserves it. He will fully deserve his inaugural championship here. And of course, don't forget, it was only a couple of weeks ago he had that disconnection in Monaco, and it was suddenly looking absolutely terrible for him. It looks like he might have possibly been able to throw it away. As Seena gets a penalty on the last lap and nearly drops it, Wheelnut is about to take the win.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic season from Daniel P. Wheelnut. Fully deserves the title. Daniel P. Wheelnut is your TGP2 champion. He wins in Silverstone in spectacular fashion, leading from start to finish. Had an excellent start, controlled the race throughout. Top Manx man, of course, beating Dom and everyone else in the championship. Fully deserving. And Seena, has to be said, also would have been a deserving champion. He vastly improved his consistency compared to what we've seen in previous seasons. He takes P2 in the race. He takes P2 in the championship. And the two of them have given us some spectacular racing this season. Some great battles between the two of them. And in the end, it was Daniel P. Wheelnut who took the title. So congratulations to Daniel Price, well deserved. And we have John Menzies who completes the podium here in Silverstone, just under 3/10 away from what he needed to overhaul Seena for P2. And who knows, maybe for next season John Menzies could find himself up there in title contention if he is a full-time driver and just finds maybe a little bit more pace around certain tracks. Chris Johnson, solid as ever in P4 in this race. Jacko, bit of a messy one, but still comes home 5th. Nell Jack, a very solid 6th. Blair Grills is 7th. Dom Smith is P8. I think we're a little bit disappointed with that. It's kind of an anonymous race for Dom there, with Mike Noon eventually ending up 9th with Angel versus Death.
Mike Noon dropped it. He done a Jacko on the very final lap, and lost about 4 positions. And nearly lost 9th place as well to Angel versus Death.
Well, I mean, do you know what? Angel versus Death, he could have been a bit higher up if he knew how to manage his battery, because I think he's constantly, it's constantly an overtake, and yes, it was rather annoying for me. But anyway, yes, Spaza is 11th, picking up a few points there, but ultimately disappointing after qualifying in an excellent P3. It all just kind of came undone for him after that, but it looked like it was his own doing at turn number 3 on lap number 1. So, yeah, it's P11 for Baza in the end.
Schumacher, he was doing some donuts, but he's just been given a 10-second penalty for seeing trial limits, and now he's taken a different layout there. And another 10-second penalty, but Mick Schumacher ending the season in Marco type style, I suppose.
Yeah, I was going to say
20 seconds of the donuts here, I think, in the Red Bull.
Interesting interpretation of style, but yeah. Gives us time to run through the order that we've kind of given a quick season recap. Indus Mackey is 12th, with Sayre Sports and Red Bull Kim picking up the final points positions. But yeah, fantastic season from Wheelnut and from Seena. Your driver of the day, Chris Johnson. Yeah, after starting on the mediums, having to pit on lap 1. Not entirely sure why, but doing the rest of the race on the soft tyres and making them last. Can't really argue with it. Although Wheelnut also deserving of it. He managed his deployment, managed the pace, controlled everything, and takes the win and the championship with it.
There it is, Wheelnut celebrating there on top step of the podium. That's his 7th win of the season, 4 more than any other driver managed to achieve. Jacko gets the fastest lap on that 128.4 then. I think, did he get fast lap in the spot? Well, no, I think Mike Newman got fast lap in the spot, didn't he? So they are the results for the final race of the season and the final race on F1 2021. That's it. You can sell the game now, right?
Yeah. Well, I would think that kind of sums up my opinion of the game. Well, actually, you know what? I do that every year. I buy it on disc and then sell it for 10 to 15 quid, whatever it's worth, at the end, and basically gives me a discount for F1 22, which gonna be honest, yeah, this hasn't been my favourite installment in the Codemasters F1 series, so hopefully F1 22 will be an improvement. In terms of the graphics and everything, it basically looks the same, but it's all about the driving physics. That's the thing I care about most. Did you enjoy this game in comparison to others?
I don't think I enjoyed it as much as F1 2020, to be honest. But
no, neither did I.
It was still a fun game. Still a fun game, but I'm very much looking forward to F1 2022. Also, to be honest, I think I'm more looking forward to F1 Manager as well, and I do wonder if there's going to be any sort of online element to that as well, because we could possibly see a TGP manager or something like that, maybe, or something. I don't know.
I was thinking that, but I doubt it, because it does seem. Well, actually, I don't know. Are other manager games multiplayer?
I'm not sure.
It may have multiplayer
I
elements.
Surprised, but yeah, but we'll see. We'll see.
Well,
what we can say for sure is that there will be another TGP1 and TGP2 season, of course, on the F1 2022 game starting in August, I believe.
Yeah, slightly earlier start than usual. We had some scheduling conflicts that has led to a slightly earlier start time, or start in terms of months anyway. Normally we would start it in September, but it'll be August. So just 2 months time actually. I'm not quite sure when in August, but the game comes out on July 1st for anyone interested in buying it.
Is it to avoid the clash with the World Cup?
Oh, I believe. Yeah,
I think that might be why. And don't forget, of course, we have got the TGP FIFA World Cup coming up in a couple of weeks. And I know Roy is busy away practicing for that as well. So,
most definitely, yes. I'm sure Portugal will be a force to be reckoned with come July. So do tune in for that. I believe most matches will probably end up being streamed or uploaded afterwards. I think I'll be streaming mine. Maybe to my eventual detriment. I think. We'll see how I get on. Just for context, in case anyone didn't know, I don't watch football or know any of the rules or who any of the people on the pitch actually are. But what could possibly go wrong? But anyway, back to wrapping this stream up. We hope you've enjoyed the racing that has been brought to you this season. I know we certainly have, and hopefully you will join us in August for some more TGP2 action and TGP1, of course. Both leagues returning in August. We'll have some different drivers, some different tracks, but still the same great action we have come to know and love over the past 11 years. So with that, I bid you farewell and good night.